What's up, guys? My name is Jonathan, and you are listening to the Stage and Strategy Podcast. It is kind of a rainy, dreary morning here in Nashville. I got my coffee. As I look out the window, it's like some rain coming down, a little bit dreary skies. If you're watching the video, you can probably see that. And there's some leaves changing colors. It's like my favorite time of the year. And so, you know what? It kind of inspired me to hop on and start today's episode that I think is actually going to really give you some encouragement today. We're going to really continue this idea that we were started with our last episode with creativity needing a plan and needing a strategy. And this is going to fit really well into our episode 2, this idea of, actually, I thought what better day to talk about rest than a day where it's a little bit gloomy and a little bit rainy. And, I didn't go on my run this morning because it was a little bit rainy. I just decided I was going to stay in. And so, you know what? What better day to talk about rest and also the idea of this of rest carrying over into the strategy behind rest and the strategy behind saying no. Because can I tell you, there are a lot of things going on, and as freelance writers, artists, composers, musicians, whatever bucket you fall in there is always something to do, right? Even as I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, I got to do all these things this afternoon, right? There's always like 1.5 million things to do, but there's a strategy to rest. And, the last time we talked on the last episode, we talked about how creativity needs a plan. Today, I want to take that a step further, because having a plan doesn't just mean knowing what to do. Having a plan means knowing what not to do, what to say no to, what to say yes to, and when to just rest, right? And when we think about rest, when I look at rest, I am by no means the poster child for doing rest well. Okay, let's just get that off of the table. I am just speaking on it because I can tell you what I have experienced and what I've learned. So I am still learning and experiencing. I'm still on the journey to figuring this out. But in my view, I really have to take a step back and look at rest as a spiritual practice, because for me, saying no to things so I have margin in my life to rest and to be a human above all of the professional things that I do as an artist and just beyond, it is a spiritual practice of me looking at the world around me and going, you know what? The world is on fire 110% of the time. And as much as I want to engage that and I want to, do the things that are really meaningful, I refuse to be on fire 110% of the time. Not like, oh, I'm on fire to, do this well and do this with passion. That's not what I'm talking about. I refuse to be running in circles on fire 110% of the time. So today we're going to talk about strategically, how do you do that? Because sometimes as a creative, it feels like you're running in circles on fire 110% of the time. You lay down to go to bed and you can't sleep because you got so many things on your brain. You wake up in the morning and you're tired because you couldn't sleep from the night before, and then you try to go to sleep, and it's just this never-ending cycle. And you know what? We have to acknowledge the role of rest in our success. And I am honored, I am amazed as a person of faith when I look to God, when I look to his strategy of rest, when he says rest is ordained and is a good thing by the Creator. I'm amazed that it's the thing he gave to us, that he didn't say, oh, you need to, I don't know if this ever has crossed your mind or not, or maybe this is just the way my brain thinks, but I'm like, if I was the creator of all things, I'd be like, okay, for you to get what you need to get, you need to go be more productive. Go run a mile, and then you'll be instead of resting, go run 8 miles, and then you'll be rejuvenated for your day. But the creator of the universe said no, you need to stop. You just need to exist, and you need to shut everything off. You need to sleep. And then, we can talk about Sabbath and all of these other things, but just this is not an episode on spiritual Sabbath, but I am just saying that's a part of my journey and figuring all this stuff out. And so I am really passionate about figuring out, how do we live a life of humanity? How do we live a life where we actually like what we do, because there's margin in our life that we're not going crazy, okay? So let's shift that idea of rest into a really strategic pathway forward in this episode. We're going to talk about how to say no, because saying no gives us margin in our life to say yes, actually, right? And I think there's a lot of information, a lot of recommendation, a lot of like encouragement around just like, especially in my industry where, people say, we got to say yes, just say yes to everything, say yes to everything. And there is a really vital need to that. Like there's a time and a season for you to just say yes, 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 because that's all you have, right? But at some point we have to switch our brain from yes, 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 yes to everything to being strategic. That's the whole goal of the Stage and Strategy podcast, is bridging the creative, yes, 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 I can do these things, to how does this actually long-term affect what my goals are and what I'm doing. And so I want to kind of call out 4 things that I think really, as creatives, the reasons why we struggle to say no. Just 4 specific things. I'm going to list them off and then I'm going to go in depth on each of them. So the first is our FOMO, our fear of missing out. We think, if I say no, will they ask me again? Our second idea, our second kind of reason we struggle to say no, is a scarcity mindset. We're like, well, if I say no, I don't know when the next opportunity will come. I don't feel like this is the right thing, but I think I need to take it because I don't know when the next opportunity is going to come. And then the third reason is people pleasing. Like, I don't want to disappoint anybody. I want them to think well of me. I want to do the things that they want me to do. People pleasing. And then number 4, the freelancer trap, is that we always feel like we gotta make the money because it may not come back, right? That opportunity may not come back. And so out of those 4 reasons, the FOMO, the fear of missing out, the scarcity mindset, the people pleasing, and just the trap of freelancing that, we have to say yes to everything so we can make the money. I think the most detrimental, we're going to talk about each 4 of them, but the most detrimental to your success is number 3. Just from my experience, the people pleasing. It's like, if I say no, they're going to think this about me. Like, almost to me, the people pleasing encompasses the other 3. Like, if I say no, they're not going to ask me again. If I say no, they're going to think this of me and they're going to talk to other people and they're going to do this thing. I have never had that experience. I've actually had the opposite of that experience happen. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I've actually had the opposite thing happen where I've just been crystal clear with people. And I've said, you know what? I'm so incredibly honored. I'm so incredibly overwhelmed right now. I can't do this. Or maybe it's just maybe it's a totally different situation where it's like, I want to say yes. I simply can't. And I'm really sorry. And you know what? I would love to pursue this in this capacity. Or we'll talk about some other things you can kind of, respond with. But let's just talk really quickly about some of the kind of fears behind these. First of all, the FOMO, the fear of missing out. If I say no, will they ask me again? I really encountered this, not personally, but just in conversations with colleagues when I first moved to Nashville. There's this kind of idea, or at least I'll say there was, for a long while. Here in Nashville, we're a studio town, so there's a lot of studio work going on here, for not just country music, but in the Christian contemporary music world. There's kind of an indie pop scene rising up. There's just a lot of music going on in Nashville, and so studio work is a big deal. I think there's more studios per like capita than anywhere else in the world, actually. I think that's a statistic in Nashville. Anyway, there was this idea for a long while that if you were a touring musician, like if you were a touring gun and you did tours with bands or you were on the road, that you really couldn't get into the studio world, because if you ever had to say no to, if a producer called you up and asked you to, hey, can you do this session on this day? And you're like, well, I'd love to, but man, I'm on the road. Then it was just like an automatic blacklist that like, that producer was just never going to call you again. And, I can't speak to all of the industry. I can't speak to even like the producers that are kind of in their prime right now. But I can say in my realm of work, I've actually seen that kind of relax a little bit. I've seen people be really understanding and empathetic, and producers actually shift their production schedule to say, you know what, I know this person's on the road. I know they're out. So we'll shift this back or forward a couple of days or a week. And if that's not possible, then it's just simply like, hey, we'll get somebody else this time. But, these are the people that I work with. And I think whenever we stress ourselves to the point of just the FOMO thing, where it's like, I know I'm good at this. I know that this is, these are my people. If they're your people, they're not just going to blacklist you, right? And to be honest with you, if you're just going to get blacklisted for saying no in a really, kind and meaningful way, do you really want to work with those people anyway? Again, and that goes into point number 2. The scarcity mindset, where you think, I don't know when the next opportunity will come, so I have to say yes to this. Well, Two thoughts. One, again, if you say no and they really wouldn't hire you again for the next time, and that's just like the end all be all, do you really want to work with those people anyway? Do they really value you as a person? And maybe the answer is like, no, but I need the money, right? And so if that's your case, like I get it. But when we really look at things from kind of a macro strategy point of view, we have to really look strategically and say, I am in control of my destiny. I am in control of the work that I get. It's not just about me waiting by the phone to get a phone call. I am pursuing with strategic pathways work. And so we're going to put that scarcity mindset aside. You got to get to a place where you can put the scarcity mindset aside, right? Last episode, we talked about the hierarchy of needs of like, I have to feel safe. I have to feel like everything that I'm working for is possible because my basic needs are met, right? My rent is paid. I can afford food. I can go to the doctor when I need to go to the doctor. Goodness gracious, I'm getting over an ear infection. And like, I literally would not wish it on my worst enemy as a musician. Like being out of commission for like a week on an ear infection makes you like want to die. But then you're like, thank God for modern medicine, right? You're like, I'll pay whatever I have to pay to get the meds. So anyway, so we're talking about scarcity mindset and just having strategy enough in you and having clear enough vision in your life to realize if this is not the thing for me, it's okay to say no to it. There's going to be other opportunities because I am making other opportunities, right? And point number 3, I talked about people pleasing, this idea of I don't want to disappoint anyone. And we have to be set free from this. You have to come to a place where you look at your life and you say, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I am doing this. I don't care what the people that, I don't care what people that think this is what they're doing or what they want to do think that life has to look like to get there, right? I am doing what I believe is best. And because if you don't, guys, if all you're doing is what you think people would want you to do, they're not living your life. You're not living their life. You were given a strategic, very special set of skills and worldview and vision to view the world through. If all you're doing is making decisions based on what other people in your shoes have done or what other people you think would do, you're not going to end up in the same place, right? It always really, friends of mine and I will talk every once in a while. I get a kick out of like when we go to conferences and things, or we go to like workshops, and there's a lot of value in these things. I love workshops. I love conferences, but a lot of times people will just talk, especially in our industry, in kind of the freelance and music industry and creative industry, people will talk about their experience getting somewhere, like how they found a gig or how they, how their relationship with someone turned into their job or whatever. And it's always so funny to me because sometimes they're really inspiring and sometimes it's kind of discouraging to think like, oh, how do I do that? But you could follow you could pick any person that's like uber successful in what you want to do and follow their exact steps, and you would not get the same results because they have a different view of the world and a different view of opportunities than you do. And you know what? That's a good thing because you have a strategic vision that you have to accomplish. So you've got to be set free from people pleasing. You cannot live your life every day and wake up and think, well, what is this person going to think of me if I post this on social media? What is this person going to think of me if I take this gig or if I don't take this gig? It's something you cannot do and be successful. So if that's you, I would encourage you, you got to figure out a way to get over that. And can I tell you what did it for me? I used to, and I'm still a recovering, people pleaser, a recovering perfectionist, I guess. And you know what did it for me? When I shared my story about moving to Nashville last episode. And what did it for me was I was a chronic people pleaser. I literally would agonize over saying no. I would agonize over, I knew what the decision was. I knew if something wasn't right for me or I didn't have time to do it or I didn't have capacity or whatever it was, or I just didn't want to do it. I knew what the answer was, but I would spend days, like my college friends can tell you, like I was so bad about saying no because I was afraid of what people would think. And you know what did it for me? You know what set me free is when I moved to Nashville, I was so broke. I had literally nothing. And coming out of a season of that, after you can't afford to like buy sandwiches at the grocery store, you don't care what anyone thinks. Like after you've worked yourself out of a season of really hard stuff and you're like, I went through a season where literally I couldn't afford to buy chips to go with sandwiches. And when you come out of that, you're like, I literally don't care what anybody else thinks because I am doing what I have to do to walk into the next season of my life, right? And so there's a place for mentorships. There's a place for, to call people and just be like, what do you think about this? Right. But I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about when you're just going through your life and something's wrong, but in the back of your mind, you're like, what is, or something's, not for you. I'm not saying something's wrong, but like something's not for you. And in the back of your mind, you're like, what is this person going to think about it? You got to break free from that. You got to break free from that. Whoever that person is that pops up in your mind when you go to put something on social media and you're like, what is this person going to think about that? You got to break free from it. Okay. I'm just telling you, you do. And then the last of these like reasons why I think we struggle to say no is just the freelancer trap. Because even though every yes feels like money, like every yes, we get a check. Every yes, we are, paying our rent or whatever it looks like. Every yes also comes with a no. Now, sometimes those are really obvious yeses, right? If the no is, well, I just don't have anything else. First of all, that's probably a problem. Probably need to, get some more things on your docket or work on some more projects. But if you say yes, you have an opportunity cost to something that you're not doing. And so what are you giving up to get what you really want? Because if you take a project that takes up a lot of your time, that's time you're not spending on something else. For me right now, I'll be honest, this season in the fall, my creative project docket is always usually a little bit less because the majority of my work comes in the spring. And so I do like a year's worth of work in like 4 months in the spring. So my spring is crazy busy, but in the fall, it's a little bit more open. And every once in a while, I'll get like a project here or a project there. And some seasons it's like, oh, really, really wish I had like something here, or I wish I had more, more creative work on my docket. But like right now for me, it's a gift. It's a gift to not have a ton of stuff right now, because if I had to say yes to a bunch of creative stuff, I wouldn't have the time to be strategic in the other areas, to plan for what my spring's going to look like, to plan for this new catalog launch that I'm doing for Stronger Music Company, to plan and to say yes to the things that I really want. And so saying yes to everything is not how we grow. We have to be strategic with our yes, because if all you do is say yes all the time, then you're just following what other people are giving to you. If you're saying yes all the time, you're not really in control of your schedule. You're not really in control of your time. You're not really in control of your career. And that's the beauty of being a freelance creative, is you are in control, but you're not in control if all you ever say is yes. There's a lot of people out there that just say, oh, you got to say yes, you got to say yes, you got to say yes. And I would agree, there are seasons of life where you have to say yes, but there are also seasons of life where you have to step back, or just seasons of time. And like for me, I said seasons of the year in the fall, where you have to step back and you go, okay, how do I prepare? How do I be strategic with the forward thinking of like all the things I'm doing in the spring? Like, how do I prepare for all of this? And so the strategy of what we're talking about today isn't just about saying no to everything either. It's about saying yes to the right things. And I'll be honest, as I was planning for this episode, the one thing that really stood out to me is I was thinking about a book, and it's probably the best book on this subject that I've ever read. And it actually sits on my bookshelf in my bedroom. And it's called The Best Yes. And it's by Lisa TerKeurst. I used to think her name was Liza. I'm pretty sure it's Lisa. So if I screwed that up, I'm so sorry. But it's an excellent book on this topic because, honestly, I read this, I think the first time I read this, I was like 16 years old. And the book's kind of written to like women, but it is so applicable to just people that struggle with saying, like, overcommitting themselves and saying yes. And if you have not read The Best Yes, you need to go find it. I'm sure it's at your local library by now. Lisa's written like lots of books, and I've not read a whole lot of hers except for this one, but I know that they're all full of wisdom. And basically the book talks about, are you living with an overwhelmed schedule and an underwhelmed soul, right? We can live with a schedule of 1.5 million things going on and not actually be any closer to what we want in life. It's amazing how that happens, right? It's amazing how rest is necessary, how saying yes to everything isn't always the best. And she calls the book The Best Yes, right? Saying your best yes, giving your best. So I'm actually going to read a little bit from it because there's some quotes here from the book where I just think they're really profound. And so this is one of her kind of guiding things. And this says, here are some great questions to ask when determining if the expectations we're agreeing to with this yes are really realistic or not. So here's how she's kind of talking about decision making, right? So as she lists these out, I want you to think about your situation, maybe whatever the yes or the no that's popped into your brain is. So here's the first thing. It feels thrilling to say yes to this now, but how will this feel 2 weeks, 2 months, and 6 months from now? Do any of the expectations that come from this yes feel forced or frantic? Question number 3, could any part of this yes be tied to people pleasing and allowing that desire to skew my judgment of what's realistic or unrealistic? Question 4, which wise people in my life think this is a good idea? And then question 5, are there any facts I tried to avoid or hide when discussing this with my wise advisors? This is really profound. We talked about the people pleasing. We talked about, using mentors. She says wise counsel. The thing that really sticks out to me is the idea that like, it feels thrilling to say yes to this now, right? I get like a little like jitteriness in the pit of my stomach whenever I like think about, things to say yes to. I'm like, ooh, yeah, this is so exciting. But take yourself out of the moment and put yourself in, if it's, say it's a big project, put yourself 2 months down the road. How is this going to make me feel in 2 months down the road when I say yes to this? Am I going to want to stick my hand in a deep fryer at 2 a.m. because I'm still up writing string charts because I said yes to too much, the week before Easter? Hello. Sounds like something I would do, right? Do any of the expectations that come from this feel forced or frantic? Like, did I feel like, oh, I have to say yes to this because if I don't, I'm going to starve? I've done that before. And sometimes there are seasons you just do that where you're like, yeah, I'm going to put myself through the extra work because I need to. And then let's move to this one. She says, what makes an expectation unrealistic? So like say we're thinking in the we want to say yes and we think the expectations are, okay, I could say yes to this, but then let's think about expectations of said project. How would I know when to say no? She says, when an opportunity stretches me to a breaking point, it becomes unrealistic. Usually for me, this is Lisa talking. Usually for me, the areas I have to consider are, and then here's, I think, 5 points. Here are the points: my time, my ability, my money, my passion, and my season. So my time, she says, the schedule required to meet all the demands of this opportunity isn't in line with the time I have to invest. That's a big one, right? Talk about boundaries. My ability. I am not equipped with the necessary skill to carry out the functions of this opportunity. We can talk about that, how to, delegate opportunities if you have a team, but if it's just you, and if you're on a crunch time schedule, you may not have time to involve anybody else, right? So is my ability in check? My money. I can't afford the financial responsibilities that come along with this opportunity. That's a big one, right? Sometimes we have to say no. We have to be wise adults and say no. My passion, the responsibilities of this opportunity evoke a sense of dread instead of fulfillment in my heart. Sometimes we do things we don't want to do, but also there are times where we do things we know are not right for us just because we want the paycheck. And that's not in line with our passion, right? And finally, my season. There is something that must take a higher priority during this season of life. Therefore, the timing is off for me to take this opportunity. That last one is me 100% like a year ago, right? I was finishing grad school. I had been trying to get Stronger Music Company off of its feet for like three years. Like it was ridiculous how long it took. And finally, I just was like, I've got to pause it. Like I built a website. I built out all these things. And I was like, it's time to pause, because if I don't pause, I'm just going to run myself out. I'm going to completely burn out. And I just got to finish one thing before I can finish the other, right? That wasn't, any of the other things weren't the problem. It was just the season, it was the timing, right? So there are just some really strategic things you can ask as you're considering, going through. I would really recommend Best Yes. Get it at your local library or go to the bookstore. I'd say they probably still sell it at the bookstore. I think it was published maybe 10 years ago, but you can probably still find it. So I think the big things to ask is when you're looking at, is this the right yes for me? And just ask, is this a mission fit? Does this align with my goals or my values for the next year? What about a momentum check? Does this move me closer to where I'm going, or does it pull me sideways? Does it pull me in a different direction, right? When I talked about, I'd love to have more creative projects, but those creative projects would take me away from my strategic building of a business right now, right? And so when you focus all of your energy, when you put all of that energy into one spot, it's amazing what happens, right? So check that momentum. Is this really going to take me too far away from what I'm really doing? Take an energy audit. Do I feel excited or drained thinking about this? And not just right now. Put yourself in your shoes 6 months from now Am I going to feel excited or drained about this? And then let's look at the ROI reality. Is the reward, and that reward could be a number of things. It could be money, it could be exposure, it could be growth, it could be relationships, right? Is it worth what it'll cost me in time and focus? There are some things like on my docket right now, like as I'm literally talking, I'm thinking, oh, I need to do that. And there are things that I'm going, you know what, that specific thing that I'm working on, or that specific thing that I need to get to that person is really not worth my time as far as finances is concerned. But relationally, it's something that I need to do. Like relationally, to maintain this relationship, I want to show that person I care. And so I'm taking part in this thing, right? That's a real thing. But sometimes we don't even stop to think about the ROI. We just think, oh, I got to do this. Like it's not even, like it doesn't even make sense with our strategy of what we're envisioning for the future. We're like, yes, I have to say yes and I have to go, right? So take inventory of that ROI. Is it really going to reward me in whatever area that looks like? And is it worth what it's going to cost me in my time and in my focus and in my opportunity cost to say no to something else? So here's the hard part. How do we say no without burning bridges? So let's talk about some practical ways to engage people when you have to say no. Because if you don't learn to say no, you will not learn to say yes to the right things, because you will be too busy to pursue the things that are really meaningful to you. We have to learn to say no. So there's really 3 specific ways that we can frame our no. And our no does not need to be harsh. So, unless, you're dealing with something that's like someone that's really difficult to work with and they, come across in a harsh way. I don't know, but I'm talking about, how do you say no gracefully? How do you say no with gratitude? Well, there's kind of really 3 ways that I think about this in. Is one, the redirect. Just say, hey, this is awesome. This is really great. I've had to do this a couple of times recently. This is a really awesome opportunity. You can even say, I would love to do it, but I'm sorry, I just can't. I'm focusing on this right now. I have something else in it. It's not even that it's a higher priority or that it's a better thing. It's just, I am focusing on this. This is in line with what I'm doing right now. I can't do this. And then you can actually even like string a couple of these together, because we'll talk about the idea of some, of like a referral. You can say, hey, I can't take this on, but here's somebody that I know would be great. We'll talk about that here in a second, but here's another option. So first of all, you just say, no, I'm sorry. I would love to, but I'm focusing on this thing. I'm so sorry. I can't help you with this right now. Please, if it really is something you'd want to work on, please call me back the next time. Like, please call me the next time. And I have found that most people will, right? And then the delayed yes. You could say, oh, right now, I just don't have time for it in this season. This isn't a fit right now, but can you revisit it next year? Can you call me back next year? Can you call me back next cycle? For me, it's a publishing catalog. I'm working on, getting some writers in my catalog. And I've had some people say that to me, hey, really, really interested in what you're doing here. I just don't have time right now. Can you reconnect with me next season? Can you reconnect with me next cycle? And we'll talk about it, right? And I'm going to, right? Because it was polite. It was rooted in gratitude. It wasn't something that they were like, no, I'm not interested, right? So you can redirect and just delay that in a real kind way. And then the final one is a referral move. You say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't take this on right now, but I know someone who'd be perfect. That's how I've gotten a lot of work, right? Because I'm the young guy. And so people will say, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm swamped with this, but Jonathan can take that. Jonathan would be the perfect fit for that. And, someday I'll do that for the people that are underneath me or working alongside me. Hey, I'm so sorry, I can't take this, but I know the perfect person you need to go to. And the payoff of that, when we start saying no to the things that are not aligned, we regain focus, we regain authority in our schedules, we regain space and margin for rest and to say yes. And miraculously, you know what happens? The right opportunities and the right people start finding you. Because if you're only saying yes to the things that are coming to you, you're never growing the opportunity to work with anybody else or to find other opportunities. You're just stuck in this like grind and this wheel of these are the things I've always done. And so it doesn't really move you in any new direction. There's no growth there. Growth comes through saying no. And so when we say no and we strip away pretty much everything that is not strategically aligned, and we, do go through maybe seasons of maybe less financial, success, or maybe less busyness, and so we see people less often, but we give ourselves margin to pursue the thing that is actually really important to us, whatever that looks like to you. And so my strategic encouragement to you as we kind of wrap up our time together today is to think about some things that you're committed to. Think about your schedule. Think about your routine. And maybe today, I feel like my routine and my schedule are pretty aligned right now. I would say my schedule is pretty aligned right now. My routine needs me to say no to some things, right? I need to say no to the TikTok scrolling and like yes to a book, right? Like things like that. Maybe you're at a really great place strategically in your career, and then now you need to realign some things personally, because our personal life and our career as freelancers and as creatives is all united. So it's all one big thing, right? That's how I try to look at it, right? Me going on a run and going to the gym in the morning, that's strategically tied to me being successful in my business, because I am my business, right? You are your business. So you need to be strategic. You need to be aligned in your routine, in your habits. And so what's one thing or one boundary you can set that protects your creative focus? For me, like it might be as simple as the phone goes away at 9 p.m. at night. That's mine. It's like been the thing that I've needed to do for so long, right? We're going to turn the phone on night mode, and it's not going to turn back on until it wakes me up in the morning, right? That's the goal. Like, what's one thing in your life? Maybe it's something you do need to say no to. Maybe it's something you've been like putting off for a long time, and you're like, I know this doesn't align with where I need. Like maybe this job that I'm working on, this one, sliver of my life, it's not really working anymore. I know I'm not passionate about it. It's something that I really need to politely get out of or say no. And can I encourage you on that front? If you're in a place, especially as a freelance person, but really anyone, even if you're in a full-time position right now or something like that, if you're in a place where your heart has left the building, where you're not functioning in any sort of like excellence, or like, I mean, maybe you're still functioning in excellence, but if your heart has left the building and you're not passionate about what you're doing anymore, you need to get up and leave, right? Let me encourage you in that, and also strongly admonish you that if your heart and soul has left the building, please take your body with it. Because what happens is, and I'm guilty of it too, right? I'm guilty of it as well. I'm preaching to the choir. So when you stay somewhere you're not aligned with, you know what happens? You're taking up someone else's place that is aligned with it, right? That's really important. So we have to be aligned, not only for our sake, but for the sake of the people coming after us. Because if you're taking, things that are not meant for you, not only are you boxing yourself off to the work you're really meant to do, and the stuff that is really going to fill your bucket and fill your soul, you're also stealing it from the people that are actually meant to do that. So don't be a hope stealer. Move in the passion and the love of the thing that you want to do, with the faith and the trust that you are in control of your destiny and you are in control of the things you want to do, and move into that. And move into that with full passion and full, just belief that this is really what I'm made to do, and I'm going to say yes in confidence. Or I'm going to say no in confidence so I can say yes in confidence, right? So your creative vision, your creativity, your vision for your life, your goals for this year are worth saying yes to, which means we have to say no to some things. We got to get to the place where we're okay with disappointing some people. We got to get to the place where we're okay on missing out on some things, because they're not things that we're really interested in or cut out for anyway. They're not the soul filler, bucket filler items for our life. And so whatever that looks like for you, let me encourage you with that this week, to say no to some things, or to put parameters on some things, or to say yes to some other things. Say yes to the book. If you say yes to the book, then that you kind of say no to the TikTok, right? Like that's my example. It's like, I need to say yes to the book more often. So this has been a great conversation about saying no, and a great conversation, hopefully, about rest. I hope you find some time to rest. I don't know if it's like dreary and gloomy where you are today, but I'm gonna, I got my little coffee here. I'm gonna drink a cup of coffee, maybe answer some emails, not do anything, too strenuous today. Maybe take the day a little bit calmer, and see. Maybe, just maybe, we'll find another passion to create. Because for me, the passion to create and to inspire and to build comes from the rest, the literal rest. just taking time to not be on, to not be, doing things all the time, comes from rest. And we can get rest by saying no to the wrong things that are misaligned and saying yes to the things that we are really, really passionate about. So I hope this has been encouraging for you as you spent some time just thinking about your own life. And as we've just spent some time talking about this, I'm so excited for our next episode. I hope you'll join me for the Stage and Strategy episode number 3 coming out soon. And if you would like to connect, I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Instagram and on TikTok, maybe a little bit less time now that I've admitted that, TikTok is like my scrolling addiction, right? But you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Jonathan_Martin_music, or you can send me an email by emailing info@jonathanmartinmusic.com. Would love to connect with you and just, know that the podcast has reached you and helping you out in some way. That's always really encouraging. So I am so excited to be on this journey with you as we talk about how to bridge strategy with creativity here on the Stage and Strategy podcast. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your week. We'll see you next time on the Stage and Strategy podcast.